Welcome to the Second Service Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Seymour, along with Matt Visnovsky. How you doing, Matt?
Good, Joey. How you doing?
Good. Hey, who's our very first guest?
Yeah, so today we're going to be speaking with Ricardo Villarreal, who's a fellow classmate of ours in the Master of Public Policy degree that we're currently in. And he recently ran for office in Texas, the 21st Congressional District, as a Democrat. And he was, as a relative unknown, was able to force a runoff with the other Democratic candidate. And he's here today to talk to us about his experience in that campaign as a newcomer and kind of what he learned. And just excited to get into it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great conversation. We hope you enjoy it. Let's begin our chat with Ricardo. Well, Ricardo, we want to thank you so much. You are our first guest on the Second Service Podcast. This is exciting for us to have not only this be our capstone project for USF, but also to have our classmates joining us. And I wanted to start with my very first question being, can you tell us a little bit about that moment when either you were a teenager or maybe in college? When was the moment that you decided, I'm going to sign up and I'm going to be in the service?
Well, I think it starts, like you said, back when I was a teenager. I don't think it was a direct moment or situation. One of the things that happened in my high school was that I was part of the Air Force Junior ROTC. So that was the indoctrination kind of into the military service. So after high school, I went a different route, but it was still something that was in the back of my head. Most of my friends went into either the Marines, the Army, or the Air Force, and I was the only one that went my separate way in terms of not being a civilian and not going into service. But it kind of it was in the back of my head for quite a number of years. So after I finished my master's degree, my MBA, it kind of like popped up again in terms of, hey, there's obligation to serve. You got to serve your country. You got to give back to the community and to your nation. So that's how it came into me getting into the Army Reserve.
I'm super interested in your experience on the campaign trail, because I know we've been classmates for quite a few classes here, and I haven't had the chance to sit down with you and discuss your experience. But expectations wise, going into it, was the experience about what you expected? Was it completely different? Was it harder, easier? That sort of thing.
It's all of those things combined. and it's not a straight answer just like that. Just because one of the things that you wanting to run for office is you got to analyze the data, look at the situation, analyze what the numbers have said in the past and what the new numbers would say, because the district that I ran in was redistricted. Before the previous iterations, the margin of winning was less than 5%. So it was rather competitive. But with the redistricting of my congressional district, it kind of moved it up to an R plus 20 to 25. So there was a lot of hesitancy from other well-known candidates to actually jump into the race. So it was something that I actually thought about. And one of the things that actually opened up the doors for me, that there wasn't as many barriers into entry. So that made it easier for me to get into it. But in terms of the expectations of what happened within the campaign, it was a whole new world for me in terms of getting to know the different county chairs, looking at precinct chairs, looking at all the different endorsement organizations, everything that was going on, the advertisement, the text messaging, the calls, the asking for money, fundraising, all those kinds of things were something that were foreign to me. Thankfully, with the MAPL program, it wasn't as scary or as foreign, because it did give you a good background in terms of all those different areas that were needed, like doing a campaign plan. Before I actually jumped into the race, I did my own campaign plan. And after I did my campaign plan, that was kind of like the catalyst to actually jump into it, because I had already formulated all the background in terms of what I would be needing or expecting in terms of the best case and worst case scenario.
So tell me about the fundraising aspect, because for me personally, I know that would be a nightmare, just given my personality, very much an introverted guy, having to call people and, ask for money, going door to door. Remember as a kid having to raise money for like a school club or the Boy Scouts, going door to door, trying to sell like chocolate bars. And I had nightmares about doing that. And everyone loves chocolate, right? But everyone hates politicians. So like explain that process and how you kind of, do you have any good stories about door-to-door interactions, people slam the door in your face, people hanging up on you when you call, stuff like that?
So it's several pronged approach in terms of in doing the fundraising part. I myself is very introverted, and that was one of the challenges that I look forward to in terms of encountering, because asking for money is like the worst thing I could do, just like you said, in terms of like selling candies or stuff like that. But one of the things that I did was actually look at my Rolodex, look at who I knew, the people that were close to me, the friends and family, that I could actually have a straight conversation and say, hey, listen, I need your support. Can you help me out? $20, $50, $100. There's always going to be disappointment when you're asking for money, especially from friends and family. There's some that I've helped in the past where I expected some kind of reciprocation and it wasn't there. But also understand on the other side of it in terms of, hey, it's a long shot race. There's a lot of candidates that are in the primary. Like I understand all those different things on why they weren't necessarily supporting me financially, but there are a lot of surprises out there that were very pleasant. People that you have never met that support you unconditionally, and there's people that I didn't make a call and I got the max donation from somebody I did not know. Now that's one of the things that you have to kind of take a step back and actually appreciate. So one of the things that I did do with the fundraising is actually thank every single person that donated to my campaign, initially with an email and then subsequently with either telephone call or with a handwritten note. And that's one of the things that it does humble you knowing that you need to ask for money. The majority of my campaign was self-funded, which again was part of my initial plan in terms of looking at, am I going to be jumping into a race that's a multi-million-dollar race, or is it going to be something more manageable where I actually self-fund the race?
Yeah, and I wanted to kind of step back to in part of the race, and this may have been beneficial, but how much of your military service was helpful in the race? Was that a part of something that you used quite a bit in your advertising, or to get the message out, or was there lessons or anything learned while serving that helped you during the campaign?
Absolutely. I did use my service as part of the advertisement campaign, both on Facebook, on Twitter. But being in the reserve, it's a dual role where you're serving the community and also serving your country in uniform. So I had the opportunity to not only leverage the experience of the military background, but also the work experience I had, the education I've attained. So it was not necessarily just using the military background as a crutch. It certainly did open doors. You mentioned in terms of having doors shut, having that background in the military kept the door open at least for the first 30 seconds instead of just being closed in front of your face. So it does help you a bit. It doesn't define who you are as a candidate, but it does give you some a great exposure and perspective into national affairs, into the state of healthcare, at least for my case. So it gave me a good opportunity to showcase those kinds of things that differentiated me between me and the other candidates.
And how did you highlight healthcare, given your background and experience in your campaign? And do you believe that that's what kind of assisted you? Because you got to that point where, like you said, it was very competitive, but you got to a runoff with your opponent. Do you think that your background and focusing on healthcare was kind of what separated and kind of set you apart?
When it gets down to policy, and I have a background in policy as well, I have a degree in public policy. So it was disappointing that the audience was more focused on taglines like Medicare for all, as opposed to really looking at either the feasibility or the application or what it would take to actually get it done. And that was one of the things where the party took the Medicare for all moniker and just ran with it, as opposed to looking at the policy and what was beneficial for our district and our population. I was running on Medicaid expansion along with the Texas candidate, Texas governor candidate, because it actually targeted specific populations, and it actually was more feasible than actually doing a Medicare for all, which is, I'm not against universal health care. It's just that I don't think anybody says, I want Medicare at the age of 60. It's a lot of things. And again, having that exposure to the different healthcare systems, being in the VA or being in the Department of Defense healthcare, I know what socialized medicine is. Working in Mexico as a physician, I know what socialized medicine is. It's not a panacea that covers everybody, and the quality of care is not there. So getting that out there and having those kinds of conversations is a little bit difficult if you have 30 seconds to have a discussion. It's either you support or you don't support Medicare for all, and it doesn't give you a lot of opportunity to explain your position. So it's one of the things I did do was within my website have different policy platforms that explain a little bit more in terms of my positions. So that's why I almost pushed everybody that I encountered into the website to get more information of not just about me, but about what I was proposing.
Coming into this, and you were, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were a relative unknown, right, in your district when you made the decision to run?
Absolutely. I had zero experience in terms of the politics. I didn't know what the county chair was. I didn't know what a precinct chair was. I had zero knowledge. I had zero exposure, or even of any of the organizations that were endorsing me.
What about your primary opponent? Did she have experience?
She had experience as advocate and as just working with different topics, and she had about a year and a half advantage in terms of in the race, because she was actually running in another district before she switched over to ours. So she started running for, I believe, Texas District 35 back in October 2020, and then she switched over to 21 in October 21. So she had about a year that she had already had running in another district. So she had a lot of contacts that she
Was there any
exploited.
interest from, say, the DNC in this district at all? As far as, like, because I'm trying to figure out how that works, where you have a few people who are
Sure.
running in the primary. Do the
Mhm.
big players ever back someone before they emerge as the primary winner?
That was one of the things that was also eye-opening to me. And something that I was planning on is that there wasn't going to be support for that district because it was being redistricted. The odds were really against us in terms of either putting money into it or capturing it or flipping it. So I knew from the beginning that there wasn't going to be that support from the big DNC or other organizations, but it was a target in the past. So I knew that there was money that was being put into the campaigns in 2018 and 2020, but it was not going to be the case in 2022. So I knew that going ahead. In terms of organizations, I did talk to a lot of organizations that were not within the state, veteran organizations that were kind of gave me the spiel in terms of there's six people that are running, 5 people that are running. We want to hold off in terms of doing an endorsement until there's somebody in the primary. And I kind of frowned on that because it was kind of disappointing, because if your mission is to support a candidate because of the demographics, whether it's a veteran or Hispanic or LGBTQ or whatever the case might be, why they're supporting it, it doesn't cost anybody to give you their endorsement of approval. I'm not saying that it requires money. I would have loved the money, but the endorsement itself carries a lot of weight, especially at those national organizations. I'm going to say like Vote Vets. That's big organization. And the other part is that perhaps if I would have entered sooner, it would have been a turn and gotten those kinds of endorsements in 2021. It would have deterred some of the other candidates to actually jump in. So that's one of the lessons learned, is to start a lot earlier than I did.
In terms of your decision to run in a district that you know is going to be heavy red, what was the calculus behind that? Was it, hey, I'm new to this, I want to get the experience, or was it maybe if I get my name out there, I can build something that I can run on again in the future in a more competitive race? I'm just curious what you were thinking, because I know a lot goes into. There's a lot of work for you, a lot of money, and to make that choice,
Absolutely.
think it from my personal perspective, like I don't think I'd be able to do it. I'm just saying. So I'm just curious, like what was your mindset as far as the after of all that?
I think the biggest thing that propelled me to it is the person that's the incumbent. He was being left unchecked. He's a House Freedom Caucus member, very divisive. He's not representative at all. He was a former chief of staff for Ted Cruz. He's a swamp monster that's not even from Texas. He's from Virginia. So it's somebody that's coming as an outsider to represent us and not even represent us that well. He's actually, Chip Roy is the one that said that he wanted 18 months of chaos and the inability to get stuff done in Congress. So for me, it was kind of like a dagger, kind of like pushing me to say, hey, you got to do something for your constituents and not just be a parrot on TV sowing division. So for me, that was, if it was somebody that I supported, or somebody that I had similar values, even if it was somebody from the opposite party, I think I don't think I would have run for that office. I may have run in a down ballot office, but I think that for me, it was somebody that was being left unchecked.
Yeah, that's great, and that was really kind of where I was going to go, was with your motivation, and that hits it. And one of the things, that the reason why Matt and I decided to do this, and is not only our capstone, but also hopefully a program that educates not just people in the MAP program, but anybody interested in politics, is there seems to be a trend of people that are getting into this to do it mainly for the showmanship portion of it, for to get out there and get their name. And like you said, you've got representation that's not even from the state, but they're going to areas where they can potentially get an easy win, make a name for themselves, and continue to climb the ladder. How important is it to you for representatives especially representatives who served in the military and are pursuing the second service, to be essentially humble stewards and servants of the people, and not necessarily doing it for themselves? I mean, politicians have to have some ego. You have to have some sort of ego to put yourself out there to do it. And, but how important, and can we get back to, the type of politician who is truly serving?
Or was it ever like that to begin with? Maybe it's more visible now.
No, I think wearing the uniform, one of the things that we don't wear is a blue or red tag on the uniform, other than the flag probably on the side. But when wearing uniform, that's one of the things that makes us different from other types of work, is that we don't say, hey, you're a Democrat, or you're a Republican, or you're a Green Party. We don't look at that. We just follow and execute the mission. So somebody that's coming from that background, I think, has a better opportunity, or has a better perspective to work on a bilateral basis, which was one of the things that I was pushing towards, is that I don't want to represent just blue. I want to represent everybody within the district, do things that are beneficial to where I live, to the communities, get things done. Doesn't matter if I have to work with Donald Trump or whoever's in office. It's a matter of getting things done, and not just saying no to bills for the sake of getting on TV. It's doing it for the constituents, and having that sense of duty, as to, you're getting paid to do something, and that thing that you have to do is pass laws and make it better for the country.
And so what's next then for you? I mean, I hope that this wasn't just kind of a one and done. You dipped your toe in the water. It didn't work out this time, and you're going to focus on teaching and writing and everything else that that you do. What's next? Please tell us you're running again.
I'm not running right now. So that's the first question after my May runoff. It was kind of like the same thing. I got so many calls and so many emails saying, "Hey, what are you going to run for next? Are you going to run again?" Considering that my primary opponent got slaughtered like it was expected in the general, I got a lot of calls. I've been asked if I'm going to run again. It's a difficult decision. I think I'd rather support somebody at this time to get the lessons learned, be in the background, share some of the knowledge that I got from running in this district. There's also life that gets in the way. If I have the financial support, I might think about it. But being able to dip into my own pocket and my own savings, it was a large investment where it's like I did it one time, but I'm not sure if I'm willing to do it again without the support of the community or the support from financial, from other means that I can get. But I've talked to other people and I wish them very good luck. I still maintain contact with some of my primary opponents that were with me. So we've maintained a good relationship.
One thing I wanted to ask that I noticed when looking at the numbers on your primary run, seems that a lot more people voted in the initial primary than the runoff. And is that typical or is that atypical? I thought that it just jumped out at me as like something that was interesting. I was curious if you had any thoughts on that.
So that's part of looking at the previous history. You look at, even without the redistricting, is that the primary is not well attended by both parties. I mean, yes, for our primary, there was 35,000 people that voted in the initial primary versus 93.8 thousand people in the Republican primary. So from the get-go, it's a 3-to-1 ratio in terms of people voting in the primary. The Democratic voters did not vote in the primary. In the subsequent runoff, there was 21,000 people, almost 22,000 people that voted in the runoff. So it is expected to be tapering it down, the participation, but it does come back up in the general election when you're actually get the two sides up against each other. I compared a lot of numbers from 2018, and it helped a little bit, but it wasn't. There was still a lack of participation, and I think it's evident with Beto O'Rourke in his post election discovery in terms of the lack of participation of people.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about if I'm a primary voter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I voted in the primary, what would make me not want to vote again in the runoff? Is it just laziness or
laziness, or the reason why you were voting in the runoff? So one of the things that happened is that in the primary, there was a whole slate of Democratic candidates, and in the runoff, some of those candidates had already won, so they weren't in the runoff. One of the positions that actually went to the runoff was the Bexar County judge, so the judge for San Antonio region. So that drew in a lot of participation from different parts of the county, but it didn't translate across all my district. So it varies, and again, when you start looking at voter targeting, you are able to kind of isolate which precincts are your high voting precincts and which ones are not.
I'm really appreciative that you did this, and I'm just so thankful of the time that you allotted for us. This was exciting, especially because you're, again, our very first guest on this. Kind of circling back to the program that we're all in together, what support did you get from MAPL professors, or was there anything in particular that was extraordinarily helpful for you in your run?
It spans from financial support to just checking my campaign plan, making sure that it was in order, getting me information, having access to voter targeting tools. There's different things that really help me within the MAPL program. Is there room for improvement? Absolutely. But it's not just the MAPL program itself at USF. It's also the USF alumni, the MAPL alumni. And I think that I missed out in the sense of me having to actually have these conversations before I actually decide to run. So I could have gotten a lot of useful information that would have helped me within my campaign, but that's on me. I think and going forward, I make myself available to anybody that attends the MAPL program, regardless of the party or position that they want to seek.
Yeah, I think that the nonpartisan aspect of it is huge. I think it's important because we're not going to wake up tomorrow and find ourselves in a country that is 70% blue or 70% red, right? We're always going to be in the situation where it's plus or minus 5 or less, and if you don't have good people on both sides, you're not getting anything done, right? So that's awesome. Appreciate that nonpartisan perspective, and I think that's like the big thing about this program that is so important, and I think that's important to maintain. Makes it tougher on raising money for it, right? That's what Seth always goes back to. It's like it's hard to ask for money for a nonpartisan, nonprofit, but
it's not always about money. It can be all different types of services or support. It can be from just having an endorsement on Facebook or Twitter, or having you reach out to your network of people that that it makes a huge difference. Like, people are just afraid of donating $5. $5 makes a difference. Every little drop counts, but it also helps. Even if you can't donate money, you can provide support in terms of, hey, these are the people that I know. These are the people that are engaged. These are the people that have donated in the past. These are the people that you should talk to give you some advice. Those are the kinds of things that are really useful to a candidate. So going forward, I hope I can share some of those tidbits.
Great. Thank you so much, Ricardo. I mean, I've got still a million more questions, but we got to wrap it up and let you get back to your day. You've just been super generous with your time. So thank you for helping us. Thank you for being our classmate. Thank you for being our friend. And we look forward to seeing what you do in the future. And we really appreciate you, put your neck out there to represent your people. And it's been a wonderful chat. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No, thank you guys for this opportunity to talk to you guys and kind of debrief after the fact.
Awesome.
Thanks.